At Christmas Eve dinner, my father didn't bother to lower his voice. He looked me dead in the eye right in front of every relative crammed around that table and snarled, "You're nothing but a useless freeloader. Go sleep under a bridge and stop dirtying my house." My mother stared at her plate. My younger brother smirked behind his wineglass. I didn't argue. I didn't shed a single tear. I just gave the tiniest smile, stood up, smoothed my cashmere coat, and walked out calm, steady, letting the door slam behind me. The second the freezing air hit my face, something inside me clicked. They had no idea I make $32 million a year. 2 weeks later, everything they thought they owned collapsed in ways they never saw coming. Before I tell you how it all fell apart, drop a quick comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight so I know I'm not the only one who's survived this kind of betrayal. My name is Camden Ellis. If you looked at the white colonial house with green shutters on the edge of Raleigh, you'd think we had it all together. 5 bedrooms, saltwater pool in the back, matching Lexuses in the driveway, mom running every women's ministry event at church like clockwork. From the outside, we were the postcard Southern family. Inside was a different story. My younger brother was the son everything revolved around. Private piano teacher at 7, travel lacrosse by 10, summer programs at Stanford while he was still in high school. Every report card, every trophy, every college acceptance letter got framed and hung in the hallway like medals. Dad bragged about him to anyone who'd listen. Mom posted his highlights on Facebook before the games even ended. I got the chores. Vacuum the entire downstairs every Saturday, mow the half-acre lawn, wash both cars until they sparkled. When I asked why the split was so extreme, the answer was always the same. You need to learn responsibility. Your brother has a future. By 14, I was locking myself in my room after midnight, teaching myself to code on a second-hand laptop I bought with lawn mowing money. They called it wasting time on that stupid computer again. I stopped trying to explain. I just kept building. Dinner conversations were a nightly performance. Dad would lean back in his chair and say things like, "Can't wait to see my son walk across that Duke stage," while Mom scrolled through photos on her phone, showing the aunts the latest shot of my brother in his new Letterman jacket. If I spoke up even to pass the potatoes, I'd get the same line. "Stop hiding behind that screen and act like a normal person for once." I learned early that my achievements didn't count unless they looked good on a Christmas card, so I stopped sharing them. I dropped out of Georgia Tech junior year, moved into a cheap apartment off campus, and started my first AI marketing tool in a closet-sized bedroom. Nobody noticed I was gone for weeks at a time. When I flew to California for Shark Tank in 2018, I didn't tell a soul. They were too busy planning my brother's graduation party. Now at 34, I live on the 48th floor of a glass tower in Midtown Atlanta. Forbes put me on their 30 under 30 list 2 years ago. My company moves 9 figures a year. And back in that White House in Raleigh, they still talk about me like I'm the family embarrassment who never grew up. They never asked what I actually do. They never wanted to know. 2 mornings after Christmas, I was pouring coffee in the glass-walled kitchen when my phone lit up with a FaceTime call from my cousin Sarah. Her eyes were already red. "Your mom just spent the entire post-Christmas service telling the entire women's group that you went broke," she said, voice shaking. "She told them you're couch surfing in Atlanta, can't even afford a plane ticket home, and that we all need to pray for you." I muted the call for 3 seconds, opened the family group chat, and there it was. Mom had posted a photo of the tree still glowing in the living room, caption in all caps, "Please keep our lost daughter in your prayers this season." Underneath, my younger brother had dropped a laughing, crying emoji and the words, "Thoughts and prayers, LOL." Sarah kept talking. "Half the church is texting me asking if they should start a GoFundMe for you. Your mom's acting like you're one step from living in a cardboard box." I ended the call, set the phone face down, and walked to the window. 48 floors up, Atlanta spread out cold and bright below me. They weren't just embarrassed about what happened Christmas Eve. They were rewriting the entire story so they could play the victims. By noon, the rumors had legs. Aunts I hadn't spoken to in years sent me Bible verses about pride and downfall. An old high school friend forwarded me a screenshot of Mom telling the neighborhood Facebook group I'd finally hit rock bottom after chasing silly internet dreams. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I pulled up my company dashboard. Revenue numbers ticked past another 8 figures before lunch. The irony tasted metallic. That afternoon, I got a second call, this time from a cousin twice removed who barely knows my name. Same script, different tiers. I let her talk, then asked one question. Did my mom happen to mention how much she needs prayers for my brother's startup? Silence on the line. Click. The smear campaign wasn't random. It was damage control. If I looked pathetic enough, no one would dare ask why they threw me out in front of the whole family. I closed the blinds, sat down at the island, and opened a blank note on my laptop. At the top, I typed a single line: let them keep talking. Then watch what happens when the truth walks in wearing my shoes. I saved the file, titled it January 7th, and went back to work. December 28th, 9:17 a.m. The notification chime cut through the quiet like a scalpel. First Citizens Bank, North Carolina. Subject: personal guarantee confirmation. Blake Ellis Technologies, LLC. $1,200,000. I opened it before the coffee finished dripping. The attachment was a 26-page commercial loan package dated 25 months earlier. Page 7 showed the borrower, Blake Ellis Technologies, LLC. Page 12 showed the collateral, the deed of trust on the family house in Raleigh, recorded in Wake County, 100% lien. Page 18 carried my electronic signature, identical down to the pixel, lifted from a 2019 life insurance beneficiary form I'd signed when I added my niece to the policy. 4 consecutive payments had been missed. Default interest had pushed the payoff to $1,412,000 and climbing. A bold red banner across the final page read, "Intent to accelerate and foreclose, 14 days." I sat very still. They hadn't just thrown me out on Christmas Eve. They had quietly mortgaged my future to float my brother's failing startup, then spent 2 years ago without ever asking. At 9:25 a.m., I called my attorney in Buckhead. He answered on the first ring. "I'm looking at a forged personal guarantee on a $1.2 million commercial note," I said, voice completely level. "Family house is collateral. I want the paper in my hands before the weekend." He exhaled once. North Carolina banks panic when the word fraud appears in the same sentence as FDIC. "I'll have counsel on the phone in 10 minutes. By 10:47 a.m., the lender's senior VP was already offering full cooperation if we promised no public filing. By 2:30 p.m., their outside counsel sent over a term sheet. They would assign the note, the deed of trust, and all default rights at a 28% discount, wire same day, full NDA. I told my attorney to accept. At 4:12 p.m., the final docs arrived. I signed as manager of a brand new Delaware entity that didn't even have stationery yet. At 4:58 p.m., the wire for $864,000 cleared. At 5:06 p.m., the recorded assignment of note and deed of trust hit the Wake County Registry. The debt was now mine. The house was now mine to call due. The clock was now mine to control. I forwarded everything to the attorney with 3 short instructions. Prepare statutory demand and acceleration letters. Schedule foreclosure hearing on the earliest possible date. Do it all quietly. Then I closed the laptop, walked to the window, and watched the sun bleed out over Midtown Atlanta. They thought they had erased me. They had actually just handed me the only weapon I needed. The 10 business days that followed were quiet on the outside and surgical on the inside. On December 29th, my attorney retained 2 separate forensic document examiners, one former FBI, one ex-Secret Service. They flew in, locked themselves in a windowless conference room on Peachtree Street, and tore the signature apart layer by layer. By the evening of January 2nd, both reports were identical. The electronic signature had been copied from the 2019 insurance rider metadata, stripped, then reinserted into the loan package with amateurish but effective edits. One examiner wrote, "The forger clearly believed the victim would never look. I told counsel to quote that line verbatim if we ever went criminal. January 1st was a holiday, but banks still hate holidays when fraud is on the table. At 9:03 a.m., January 2nd, the lender's general counsel called my attorney directly, voice tight, offering immediate assignment at any reasonable discount if we agreed to keep everything quiet. We countered at 72 cents on the dollar. They accepted before noon. That same afternoon, I formed Ellis Capital Holdings II LLC in Delaware, nominee officers registered agent only. By 4:47 p.m., the final assignment package was executed. At 4:58 p.m., the wire for $864,000 left my account. At 5:19 p.m., the Wake County Register of Deeds recorded the transfer. The note, the deed of trust, the default, the acceleration rights. Everything now belonged to a company that shared my last name, but no one in Raleigh would ever connect to me. From January 3rd through January 6th, we built the foreclosure file like architects. Demand letter citing North Carolina General Statutes 4521, Quinton 16. Acceleration notice declaring the entire balance due immediately. Notice of foreclosure hearing scheduled for the earliest statutory date. Every exhibit Bates stamped, every affidavit notarized, every page designed to survive appeal. My assistant booked the glass-walled private room at STK Buckhead for Friday, January 7th, 7:30 p.m., 8 seats under Ellis Capital Holdings. Deposit non-refundable menu pre-selected wine already chilling. During those 10 days, my phone stayed completely dark from any 911 area code. No missed calls from Dad asking why the loan officer suddenly ghosted him. No late-night texts from Mom promising it was all a misunderstanding. No frantic voice notes from my brother begging for help. Just the occasional forwarded prayer chain screenshot from distant cousins and one casserole offer I never answered. I slept 7 hours every night. On January 4th at 11:03 p.m., I opened a new message to Ryan Caldwell, my brother's live-in boyfriend of 26 months. Ryan still thought I designed logos for Etsy shops. I kept the text to 3 lines. Get the whole family on a flight to Atlanta this Friday evening. A very motivated investor wants to discuss full rescue of the company. Private room already reserved. Don't be late. I attached the restaurant confirmation, hit send, and set the phone to do not disturb. Then I walked to the bar, poured 2 fingers of Hibiki 21, and raised the glass to the sleeping city below. 10 days earlier they had told me to sleep under a bridge. In 3 more days they would sit across a table from the person who now owned that bridge, the road beneath it, and every brick of the life they thought was still theirs. I finished the whiskey, rinsed the glass, and went to bed. The hook was in the water. They were already biting. Friday evening, January 7th. The private glass room at STK Buckhead glowed soft amber above the Atlanta skyline. I arrived 40 minutes early, black dress, no jewelry except a thin platinum watch. My attorney sat to my right, dark suit, red folder closed in front of him. The table was set for 8. Name cards face down. 2 bottles of 2016 Dom Perignon already breathing. At 7:28, the door opened. Dad walked in first, navy blazer, pressed hair, perfect smile, wide and practiced. Mom followed in pearls and the burgundy dress she saves for charity galas. My brother wore the new Tom Ford suit they bought him last month, Ryan beside him in awkward navy. They were all laughing about something the valet said, eyes bright with the relief of someone who believes a rescue is seconds away. The laughter died the instant they saw me. 7 full seconds of silence. You could hear the city traffic 48 floors below. Dad recovered first. What? What is this? I let the silence stretch one more beat, then gave the smallest smile of the night. Sit down. We're right on time. They moved like sleepwalkers. Chairs scraped. Mom's purse slipped off her shoulder and hit the floor with a dull thud nobody picked up. When everyone was seated, I nodded to the server outside the glass. The door clicked shut. Locked from the inside. Dad tried again, voice too loud. Ryan said an investor wanted to save the company. Where is he? I rested both forearms on the table, fingers laced. You're looking at her. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. My brother went the color of printer paper. Ryan stared at his shoes. I slid the red folder forward. My attorney opened it with deliberate calm and began laying documents like playing cards. First page, the forged personal guarantee with my lifted signature highlighted in yellow. Second page, the recorded assignment of note showing Ellis Capital Holdings II as current creditor. Third page, the acceleration letter dated yesterday, declaring the full $1.45 million due in 10 calendar days. Fourth page, the scheduled foreclosure sale notice already filed with the Wake County clerk. Dad's mouth opened, closed, opened again. This is some kind of sick joke. I leaned in just enough. You put my name on a loan I never signed. You missed 4 payments. You used the family house as collateral. I simply bought the paper when the bank panicked. Perfect legal. Perfectly quiet. Perfectly final. Mom found her voice small and trembling. We're your parents. You stopped being that the night you told me to sleep under a bridge in front of 18 relatives. My brother finally looked up, eyes wet. You're my sister. You can't do this. Watch me. Ryan tried to play peacemaker. Maybe we can work something out. Refinance. There's nothing to refinance. The note has been accelerated. Pay $1,452,618.11 by January 17th, or the house goes to public auction on the courthouse steps. Dad slammed the table. Silverware jumped. Where are we supposed to get that kind of money? The same place you got the idea that my signature was yours to take. Mom started crying, silent tears ruining mascara. Please, it was for Blake's future. We thought you'd understand. I signaled the server. He entered, poured water for everyone except me, and left without a word. I waited until the door clicked again. You had 10 days to call. 10 days to explain. 10 days to say sorry. My phone never rang once. So now you have 10 days to pay, or you lose everything. The room was so quiet I could hear Mom's pearls clicking against each other as she shook. My brother whispered, You're enjoying this? No, I'm finishing it. I stood. The chair rolled back without a sound. The bill is on me tonight. Order whatever you want. You have 10 days. I walked to the door, pressed the unlock button, and stepped out into the hallway. Behind me, someone finally started sobbing. I didn't look back. The projector screen lit up white. Then the first slide appeared in merciless high definition. My electronic signature magnified 50 times the copied pixels circled in red, like a crime scene photo. Second slide, 12 separate transfers totaling $1,200,000 moving from the loan disbursement account into my brother's personal Chase checking within 36 hours of funding. Third slide, satellite image of the Raleigh House current owner field reading Ellis Capital Holdings II LLC, recorded 01 Zokutau. Fourth slide, the official notice of foreclosure sale taped to the Wake County Courthouse door, auction date January 20th, 10:00 a.m. The only sound was Mom's sharp inhale. Dad tried to stand, thought better of it, and stayed half crouched. This is insane. You can't. I can. I did. Sit down. My brother's face drained until it matched the white tablecloth. He pushed his chair back, knees hitting the marble with a crack that echoed off the glass walls. He crawled the 2 steps to me and wrapped both arms around my legs like a child. Sis. Please. I'll lose the house means everything. I'll literally die without it. I stepped sideways. His hands clutched empty air. Ryan reached for him. Blake, get up. My brother ignored him, voice breaking into ugly sobs. I'll sell everything. I'll get 3 jobs. Just give me 6 months. You have 10 days. Mom's mascara was already halfway down her cheeks. She clutched her pearls like a lifeline. We're your parents. You came out of my body. You can't throw us into the street. You threw me out first. In front of the entire family. Remember? Dad finally roared. We did it for Blake's future. You were already rich. We thought you'd never even notice the guarantee. I laughed once, ice cold. You thought I'd never notice someone stole my name to gamble with a 7-figure loan. That's not thought. That's contempt. Mom tried the soft root voice, trembling hands reaching across the table. We'll sell the cars, the boat, everything. Just give us time to make it right. There is no more time. The note is accelerated. Full balance due, January 17th, 5:00 p.m. Eastern. $1,452,618.11. Wired. No checks, no promises, no extensions. Dad's fist hit the table. Crystal jumped. Where the hell are we supposed to find that kind of money in 10 days? The same place you found the courage to forge my signature. My brother was openly wailing now, forehead pressed to the cold floor. I'll go to jail, I'll kill myself, I can't. My attorney spoke for the first time, quiet and bored. Threats of self-harm are noted and recorded. Mr. Ellis, please continue. Silence slammed down again. I let it sit for 5 full seconds. You spent my entire life making sure everyone knew I was the disappointment. You needed me to stay the failure so Blake could stay the star. Now the roles are reversed, and suddenly I'm supposed to save you. Mom whispered through tears. Blood doesn't do this to blood. Blood also doesn't commit felony forgery against blood. You wrote the rules. I'm simply enforcing them. Ryan tried one last time, voice cracking. There has to be something human left in you. There is. That's why I'm giving you 10 days instead of 0. I pressed the remote. The screen went dark. Dinner and drinks are on me tonight. The final payoff instructions are printed on the last page of the folder in front of each of you. Clock starts now. I smoothed the front of my dress and walked to the glass door. Behind me, my mother's crying turned into something primal, guttural sounds I had never heard from her before. My brother was still on the floor. Dad stared at the black screen like it had personally betrayed him. I pressed the unlock button and stepped into the hallway. The door closed with a soft final click. I never looked back. July night, 6 months to the day after the auction, I stood on the new balcony of the penthouse 2 blocks south of the old one. The city lights stretching out like spilled diamonds, the air thick with summer heat and distant barbecue smoke. The colonial house on the edge of Raleigh sold on the courthouse steps for exactly 68% of its last appraisal. The winning bidder was Ellis Capital Holdings, the second LLC. I watched the entire sale on a live stream from my office, volume muted. When the gavel fell, I closed the laptop and never opened that file again. My parents now live in a 2-bedroom apartment above a discount tire center on New Bern Avenue. The building smells of rubber and old grease. The AC unit in the living room window rattles and drips brown water onto the carpet. Mom hasn't set foot in her old church since February. Too many women asking in syrupy voices how the family is holding up after everything. Dad traded both Lexuses for a 2014 Camry with 140,000 miles and a cracked taillight. He parks it 2 blocks away so the neighbors won't see. My brother filed Chapter 7 on March 12th. The bankruptcy trustee liquidated everything: the refundable condo deposit in South Beach, the leased 911, the wine club membership, even the watches. Ryan moved out the day the notice went public. Last rumor I heard, he's back living with his parents in Charlotte. My brother works midnight to dawn stocking shelves at a distribution center off I-40. He wears a reflective vest now instead of Tom Ford. I changed my personal phone number the morning the judge signed the discharge order, blocked every email address, every social account and phone number that shared my blood. Deleted the shared cloud albums, the old family group chat, the emergency contacts labeled Mom and Dad. Gone in 4 clicks. Some nights an email still slips through to an ancient Gmail I forgot to kill. Cousins forwarding prayer chains with subject lines like, "Please keep the Ellis family in your thoughts." Old high school friends asking if I need help moving. I mark them all as spam and empty the folder without reading past the preview. My company closed another 9-figure quarter last month. The board threw a party on a different rooftop. I drank one glass of champagne, smiled for the photos, and left before the cake was cut. Nobody there knows. I grew up in a white colonial house with a pool. Nobody needs to. I keep the Forbes plaque in a storage unit. The Shark Tank clip stays unlisted on YouTube. Success stopped needing an audience the day I realized the only people who ever doubted me were the ones who raised me. People still ask sometimes if I feel anything at all. I don't feel guilt. I don't feel regret. I don't feel the need to explain. I paid every debt they ever placed on me the moment I walked out into that Christmas Eve cold with a smile and never looked back. Tonight, the wind off the Chattahoochee is warm and slow. I lean against the railing city humming 48 floors below and speak the only sentence that still matters. Some people only belong in the past. I shut the door, turned the deadbolt, and threw the key into the river. The current took it without a sound. If you have ever been told that setting boundaries makes you selfish, this story is a reminder that protecting yourself is not the same as turning your back on love. You have the right to be respected. You have the right to say no. You have the right to want more for yourself. And you have the right to decide that certain patterns no longer belong in your life. For many people, the hardest part of setting boundaries is not saying the words. It is accepting that some people may never understand why those boundaries are necessary. They may call you distant. They may say you have changed. They may even make you feel guilty for choosing your own well-being. But choosing yourself does not mean you stopped caring about others. Sometimes caring for yourself is what allows you to understand what a healthy relationship should look like. Love should not require you to surrender your dignity. Family should not require you to abandon your financial security, your emotional well-being, or your sense of self. And healing does not always mean reconciliation. Sometimes healing means stepping back. Sometimes it means closing a door without anger and refusing to reopen it, simply because someone expects you to return. Camden's story reminds us that we cannot control how others value us. We can only decide how we will value ourselves. If you have ever experienced a moment when you had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting your own peace, I would genuinely like to hear your story. Share it in the comments. Your experience may help someone else realize that they are not alone. If this story gave you something meaningful to reflect on, please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and explore more stories in the description. Thank you sincerely for staying with me until the very end. And if you remember only one thing from this story, let it be this: protecting your peace is not selfish. Sometimes it is the most necessary act of self-respect you will ever choose.